I take off from RAF Coltishall. We're going to fly away to Coningsby via Marham, via Holbeach Air Weapon Range. We'll do some bomb dropping, we'll do some emergencies. We're going to be without canopy, without stores, single engine when we get to Coningsby. And we'll do some navigation by GPS, via TACAN, using the navigation indications. There's lots of stuff going on in this video. Clearly you can skip ahead with the chapters if you wish. But I'm going to settle my way inbound to Marham at this time, and then we'll talk about how we've got things set up in the cockpit. Now those of you that know, this is clearly not a Jaguar GR cockpit. It's an early French version. But there's lots of things that excite me because I used to fly the Tornado, and it's an old school way of operating. And there's some stuff in here that I wish I had in the Tornado, to be fair. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat, because Norfolk is so flat. I'm going to put altitude hold on. In fact, it's already showing on because I've flown this a few times for practice. Hopefully that will accept. Green and green. And we're just about up to 420 knots. And I said I was using the clock, it's just a little backup. Clearly we've got GPS there as well to help us out. And we're looking at about 4 minutes 10 till we get to Marham. So first things first, I actually want to get to a place northeast of Marham so I can fly down the runway to the southwest direction. So I've got 24 X-ray in the TACAN, I put it to TNR. I have got the big fat needle pointing to Marham. It's 22 miles away and it's off to the right. You can see that we are south of our GPS route, so we want to go to the north. So first things first, let's change that. But I want to be to the northeast of Marham, so that I can fly down the runway. So what I've done is, in this add vector function, I put 050 as a bearing from Marham TACAN, and I've put 6 miles in as just an arbitrary range. So this will actually, when I click over to add vector, you can see the big fat needle for the TACAN moves to the right, and it's now pointing to where the 050 radial at 6 miles is, which I think is genius. In the Tornado I had to do point-to-point calculations and kind of guess it, but that's awesome. We like that a lot. Now I know Jaguars don't come with GPS, especially not Garmin ones, but if this was a vintage aircraft doing the airshow circuit, then I'm sure they'd chuck in a GPS, so it's not all bad. 300 feet and a rainbow, glorious. So once we get to Marham, about 4 minutes and 10, we're currently at 2 minutes exactly, so minutes on the small dial, seconds on the skinny needle. We're going to take a right and turn inbound to Holbeach Range. And we'll do a little bit of weaponeering with the HUD. Can't drop bombs on this version, this is beta, I'm not sure what they're developing in the future. But we'll just simulate it with the head-up display. We're showing 11 miles, we're still pointing towards that place, that bearing and range that we selected. But the range always goes to Marham, so it's worth bearing in mind. Bearing, see what I did there? So I've flicked away, so it's now pointing directly to Marham. You can see it's almost pointing 240, and that's actually the heading, or rough heading of the runway. So we're almost there. Right, let's face up now. Scenery is epic in this sim, absolutely epic. Alright, anyone seen an airfield? See a few telephone masts, mobile phone masts, crazy, lots of detail. Right, I can see where I think the airfield is. Remember, about 4 minutes and 10 will be later actually because we're accelerating, so yeah, the timing's not going to work out perfectly. Another tower down to the left side, there's the runway. So I turned a bit early, but you get the idea with the add vector. I think it's a really neat function. So all the scenery you see here is freeware from flightsim.to if you were wanting to download it for PC. Finding out those random trees. And what are we? We're at least 10 feet off the deck. Yeah, about 10 feet. Very cool. Next track is going to be 313, so here we go. Go on tracker, I'll keep up. I love the fact the attitude indicator has a heading function on it. It's such a complicated thing. 313 there or thereabouts. A little bit rainy, but I can see through it, so that's all good. Look at those shadows, love it. So I now want to navigate using the course function. So I've set 313 before I took off because I know that's inbound the target. You can see the vertical yellow bar is off to the right hand side. If it's showing something funny, then it might be that you haven't got the switch to the lower left of the AI in the right position. So that's over to nav. It's showing that the vertical yellow is off to the right, which means that's where my track is, the course that I want to be following. And you can see on the GPS that yes, I'm left of track. And the tail end of the TACAN needle is showing 309, so it all confirms the same picture that I am slightly left of track. And the reason I'm using the course function is because we're going to do some weaponeering, and hopefully Holbeach range isn't in a rain shower. You see that vertical yellow on the attitude indicator is sliding in now. Speed is good. We're going to pop up, get things set up for our attack. So I've selected the head-up display to air to ground. Bit hazy, nice rainbows. Speed's good. Track, we're slightly right of track now, but that's cool. Okay, so in the head-up display you can see a bomb fall line. We've got a fly down arrow. That's linked to the rad out, so I've set it, well, probably just less than 1,000 feet. So let's get back down there. And then you'll actually want to see a flat circle. And if you go too low, you'll have a fly up signal. So quite clever. There's the flat circle. Now I wonder if I go too low. Again, it's actually disappeared. It does give you a fly up. Not sure why it hasn't done there. Perhaps user error, maybe it's beta function, who knows. Right. We are, there we go, on height, on track. Bomb fall line is roughly through the bomb circle. Now, a reminder, this doesn't drop weapons, but this is just practice. This is what I did for 95% of my UK sorties on Tornado, is just pretend. And drop. Slightly to the right, probably a 3 o'clock at 10 meters, I guess. And there's the dive circle. Again, Holbeach range, also freeware scenery, I think. Off to the left, we're going to Wittering now. So 237 is the heading, or the track, should I say. There's 240 on the attitude indicator. Fix that a little bit more before we reset our head-up display and our navigation, because we want to change our TACAN as well. So not sure why that altitude is still there. Maybe I didn't disable it properly. There we go. Altitude, AP. You do that thing. Speed. Let's reselect the head-up display to the cruise. You've also got air-to-air function. That's air-to-air. That is for the cruise. And then we'll set this to 123. This is the TACAN I'm pointing at now. 1, 2, 3. Transmit, receive. Also, I forgot to mention you need this in VT, VOR TACAN, if you want the needles to work. And we are now pointing towards Wittering, and we're 23 miles away. And you can see on our GPS it also says 23 miles away. Happy days. Now, if I wanted to fly by GPS, let's try some of that. So if I go over to the GPS here, this is the PMS 50. There are other options if you want to use it. I go CDS to GPS. You can see that skinny needle is now pointing in the same direction. I'm going to turn off the TACAN so it doesn't interfere. The TACAN parks in the 12 o'clock, so it does look like it's still working, but the range bar is, the range indicator is out. I'll flick lower left of the AI, I'll flick that to the left. You can see the vertical yellow is now slightly off to the left, and that says that we are right of track. Maybe ever so slightly, but only slightly. Right, so we're now navigating using the GPS only. So we're off to Wittering. From Wittering we'll turn north. We'll go to Cottesmore, we'll do a quarter clover if the weather lets us. And that'll line us up beautifully to go to Coningsby with an emergency. Right, and you can see that that vertical yellow needle on the attitude indicator is now off to the right, which means we're south or left of track. And that makes sense on the GPS. So that is how you use the GPS navigation in this Jaguar. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. If you got any questions, by the way, chuck those in the comments down below. We have 12 miles to go at 7 miles a minute. You're looking at probably a minute 40. That means we'll be there at about 11 minutes, 12 minutes 45. That puts us about a minute late on my estimations, but because we're doing slightly different routing, we're not following the track perfectly, and we turn a bit beyond our turn points and all that stuff, the timing's not going to work out perfectly. But in future I will do another proper clock to map to ground climb on target video, because they are good fun to do. Alright, we're inside 7 miles, so we've got less than a minute. This Wittering scenery is default, I believe. I didn't download a Wittering one. Sometimes it's quite tricky with the freeware sceneries to download all the assets that you need for it to work. Now, one thing to bear in mind with the GPS is it does sometimes trip over to the next track that you want before you reach the waypoint. Military flying, you always fly to your waypoint, and the plan takes into account that you'll blow past the next track a little bit. But here, the GPS has already moved across, which is why my vertical course needle is off to the left. But here is Wittering. Excellent. 323 is the track that we want. Oh, those shadows. I'm a sucker for these shadows. Okay, climbed a bit up there, so let's get back down to low level. 323 is what we need. Speed is reasonable. We are showing just slightly right of track, or maybe, to be fair, on track. We can put the Wittering, let's put the TACAN back on. There we go. We'll turn the GPS off because that's enough of that. So there, and V-lock. You can see that skinny needle parks horizontally. Alright, so we're going to do a quarter clover. Pulling up way in advance, using the afterburner over the top, making sure we don't over alpha it because it will spin on you. Here we go. 2 miles away. Our next heading is 040, so afterburner in, or reheat should I say. Up we go, about 4.5 G. Maybe easing it off, pulled up a little early, that works. There we go. Over the top, rolling left, 4,000. Where's my runway? Watching the alpha. There's the blue, there's the green. Burner comes out. G's coming up. Okay, we definitely made that. I'll put the power back in, and we're down the runway. Not my cleanest cloverleaf, but it'll do. I didn't crash, always a bonus. Right, so next track is going to be 039, about 040, makes sense on the attitude indicator. We need to be travelling inbound to Coningsby. They have a TACAN, which is 48 X-ray. So let's reselect altitude and AP, so hopefully that holds what we've currently got, give or take. Nothing in front to hit, so let's have a look down here. So 48, and we're about to have a single engine emergency, which will be fun. And we are showing 23 miles away and pretty much pointing directly at it. Nice. Slightly right of track, but all is well. Alright, and what we're going to say now is that our left engine has taken a bird. It is spooling down. It is going to shut itself off. We'll simulate that by right-clicking and shutting it down ourselves. So I'm going to maintain aircraft control. I'm going to aviate first. I'm going to climb away from the ground. I'm going to make that assessment. Do I need to jump out, or can I stay with the aircraft? Well, we've still got flying speed, so I'm happy to stick with it for now. What indications do we have? Left hide, left LP, i.e. the engine shut down. Let's complete the shutdown drill. This is not from the checklist, this is just from a little bit of my experience and a little bit of what I think should happen. So we've already done the HP shut off with the throttle. We'll do the LP shut off if I can make sure I don't crash whilst I'm looking down here. There's the LP shut off. We can also do the fire button if we want to press that, if we think there's a fire risk. And we've got hide, oil and LP on the left, which makes sense. Engine shut down, all is good, 2,000 feet and plenty of flying speed. So we've aviated. Now we need to navigate to where we're going. We've got 48 X-ray TACAN selected. That is pointing 9 miles away. But I want to approach runway 07. Now if I do maths in public, 07... 250, so if I change this to 250, we should be able to get ourselves to a position where it will take us to the extended centerline. Now will I be able to do this in time? I do not know. Come on, I know the speed's washing off, so I'm just keeping an eye on that. 25, that'll do, vector. Right, it's showing that we need to go left. That's because the runway is orientated, I think it's 07, and we were on a 040 heading, so because we're only 6 miles away, it's pretty much put us 90 degrees off. But that's the power of using the add vector function. Right, 200 knots, we are 1,500 feet. Struggling a little bit for weight, so what I'm going to do is jettison. So there's the Jaguar with stores on. Bosh. There's the Jaguar without stores on. And for good measure we can even lower the hook. I'm going to move this add vector back so it points directly at the airfield. So we've got another 20 degrees before we're aligned with the runway. There's the hook. Maybe we've had a double hydraulics failure, want to take the approach end cable, that sort of thing. And then what I'll do is I'll pretend we've got smoke and fumes and jettison the canopy once we get closer. Now I can see the airfield over there, so what I need to do is start configuring. So I'll put the gear down, a couple of stages of flaps. I'm not going to use all the flaps because that would be a lot of drag. Overshooting the centerline slightly, but actually we're in a decent place. Might have been worth doing an orbit just to line up a little bit better, but this is good enough. So we've got some flaps, got the gear down. We'll do another stage of flaps, that'll do. We don't want to go too much slower than this because we'll get to the back end of the drag curve and that would be a bad idea. And then we're looking for the pappies just to give us a warm and fuzzy that are on the glide path. So slightly higher on the glide path, which is cool. So let's punch this canopy off. And it gets a bit noisy, but I'll post edit so I'm not drowned out. We are now in a good place. So if you're still watching, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments down below. If you want to see anything in future videos, then let me know. If you want to join the cgaviator Discord, check out the link in the description. Alright, let's see if we can butter this thing on. Okay, still a bit fast. Bring that speed back. Flaps are looking okay. Get a bit slow on the glide path, but we're doing alright. We're doing alright. Power off, keep it straight. Oh, we're down. That would be the rag there. Those yellow dots would mark where the arrestor gear would be. And I'd ordinarily have the nose wheel down by that point. But we made it, we're down. So thanks for watching, until the next time, take care and fly safe.